there. I'm staying there. There or the other way?
No,
You're here. You're here.
we did this wrong.
Wow, you guys look amazing. It's really amazing to be back here. It's been 5 years. Thank you for coming today. Thank you for waiting for 5 years. We've got a lot of amazing things to show you today. And just as a quick warning, there may be some spoilers that we're going to see today. So when we start playing the game, if you don't want spoilers, cover your ears, cover your eyes, do whatever you have to, get out. But we hope you stay. We hope you watch it. One of the things I just wanted to quickly talk about before we started was, I said it's been 5 years. And when we developed the idea for Andromeda, a lot of people would assume that we were thinking, why wouldn't you do a Mass Effect 4? Mass Effect trilogy was very popular. There's so many stories left to be told, but we wanted to sort of give it some time, but we also wanted to sort of let the trilogy sort of end and then move on into something that allowed us to do something amazing. And I think one of the things that gave us the opportunity to be so forward-thinking with the original trilogy was this sort of idea of anything was possible. And so this was part of the concept behind Andromeda. We're taking it to a whole new galaxy. And I think that really allowed the people who are up here today and all the team out there to really sort of go back to imagining and sort of finding that magic that made Mass Effect so special. So today we're going to see a lot of things that hopefully will be familiar if you're a Mass Effect fan, but we're also going to see a lot of new things. It's really a fresh start. It's a fresh start for the team. And it's a fresh start for the franchise as well. It's something that's very centered around exploration. But today we're actually going to take a look at Liam Loyalty. We've mentioned that loyalties are back for those of you who love them. So this is a very character-focused mission. One of the things is, we've talked a bit about how there's a slightly lighter tone in Mass Effect Andromeda. And because this is a loyalty mission, it's actually even a little bit lighter, but it kind of helps to play off the character of Liam. Rest assured, there are some very serious moments in the game and even serious moments later on in this mission that we might not see today. But yeah, without that, I actually just realized I didn't even introduce myself. My name is Mac Walters. I'm the creative director. And with that, we're going to start. Thank you. And with that, and there will be time for Q&A at the end, so we'll make sure we do that. But I'll let everyone else introduce themselves.
So I start. You excited, guys? Okay. Because we are. So I'm Fabrice. I'm the Mass Effect producer for Bioware Montreal.
And I'm Joel McMillan. I'm the art director on Mass Effect Andromeda.
I'm Kathleen Rootsard. I'm one of the lead writers for Mass Effect Andromeda.
Mike Gamble, producer on Mass Effect Andromeda.
Jessica Campbell, space lead and LD for the Tempest.
Ian Fraser, lead designer.
Awesome. I guess with that, we'll take it away.
Yeah.
Ian.
Ian is the guy that you have to try to convince to die repeatedly as he plays for you. He's very, very good at the game. This is probably one of the times he's going to die for sure.
Pretty much guaranteed.
Yep.
So as we mentioned, this is Liam's Loyalty that we're starting in. But we're actually going to, I believe we're going to start on the Tempest, right? Mm-hmm. That's right. And Jess is our space lead. She lived, breathed, and died on the Tempest, I think, many times over, didn't you?
She died a lot more than she lived, but she definitely, she finished it off.
Yeah, so I mean, looking at the Tempest, if you're familiar with the original trilogy, there was a pretty big shoes to fill with the Normandy. So I think where we came, we're touching it. Yeah. As you know, if you played the game before, there was the galaxy map. So a big thing for us was the whole experience of space, because this is a science fiction game in space. With that, when we were looking at it, we wanted to keep elements that we were familiar with the galaxy map, but push it further. Looking at the Frostbite engine and where we were, we really wanted to create this visual, stunning experience. It's immersive. As you can see, when you go into it, it's not necessarily the in-game UI. You would walk up into the middle of the ship and just look at the UI and fly a ship around. We are at the front of the ship on the bridge, and we are interacting with space. It's a lot more engaging. Probably one of the best parts we've got is as you fly around the galaxy, when you go to different locations, you get the experience of actually moving through the system. You'll be passing asteroid fields, different planets, sailing through moons.
One of the things we tried to focus on the art side was actually making space feel as volumetric and dense as possible without it just seeming like a skybox. So as you fly through space, you'll see there's a lot of nebulas and a lot of solar or different types of anomalies that you could pass through, all to give a sense of density to the space experience.
So one of the things we were really excited about with this and the new design of the Tempest was when you travel to different locations, once you exit the galaxy map, what you see outside the window is the location you just flew to. And what's really different with the Tempest is because we have different windows, when you actually leave, you can walk around. In the meeting room, there's a 360 panorama, so you could just look around and see this location you're at. So.
Or if you want to have a romance.
Or if you have a romance.
In your Pathfinder's quarters, you might want to park it outside the blue
nice
nebula instead of the pink nebula.
Got my backdrop.
Right?
We're good for sexy times.
It's an actual thing you can do.
Sexy times. And there
You see here that we're actually here orbiting this red sun, totally different system.
And that was actually one of the key elements for the design of the Tempest itself, was trying to give as much open space so you can see out into external space as possible. Previously with the Normandy, we intentionally didn't have any windows because we didn't have the same kind of technology that we have in Frostbite. So a lot of those windows were closed off or very minimal, so you would just kind of see some shimmer outside of that window. But for our game, because we are focused a lot more on exploration, we wanted to open that up as much as possible. So we tried to present, windows along the whole front of the cockpit of the Tempest, at the back, in your Pathfinder's quarters, and that actually applied to the characters as well in Andromeda. A lot of our helmets now have the sense of an open visor, which is meant to be kind of an exploration visor, rather than how we had it previously in the trilogy, where they're all combat visors, very metallic and closed in.
So by this point in the game, you've done a lot of cool stuff with Liam. You and him are buds. You've explored the galaxy a little bit together, and you've kind of built up some trust and a good relationship with him. So at a certain point in time, he comes to you, and as a good squad mate does, needs your help. So that sets up this mission roughly, and then you have to obviously travel to this area, this debris field, which then kicks it off.
And Liam has a plan. You'll hear about the plan as you play the level, and how well that plan goes.
Liam is sort of your colonial specialist.
All right,
He's
set to go.
He helps you found
Somewhere. This is on me. I'll take care of it. Any sign of the pirates who took my contact?
There's too much background radiation. Could be anything hiding out there. All that debris in orbit.
That tracks. Heard they were scavengers. I'd hoped Bradley or some of our colonists would follow. Join in.
We'll make do with what we've got. What's the plan?
Somewhere out there is a ship full of pirates. They might have our specs.
Thanks to you.
Yes, thanks to me. So we can't go in hot. I say we play to their scavenger routes with that debris. I'll explain in the airlock. We've wasted enough time. Let's hit the go button, shoot pirates, and save people. We've got this.
Kathleen?
Don't get cocky, Ian.
Okay.
So at this point, if you don't
What
want
we've
to have
got is a
spoilers,
chance.
you have to close your eyes for the next 20 minutes.
Here's two.
We play this right, they'll deliver us just where we need to go. I have a plan.
One of the things we were also playing up quite a bit, as you saw, was just the interplay between the characters on your crew and in the squad.
Come on. Hiding in derelict cargo to get scavenged. Sure, we don't know what we're up against. Neither do they. Trojan horse simple.
The Greeks didn't need to worry if Troy had air.
There's air. Whoa. This isn't right.
Liam, you said to expect pirates. This is a catch ship. A big one.
Change of plan? Okay, it's a catch ship. But scavenging isn't their MO.
Alarms, Liam.
Doesn't change why we're here. Find her around and get out. Somehow.
This is already a good example of how the spaces are more open.
We have stoves! We have stoves!
Ian, what are you playing as right now? What's your profile set as?
I'm actually set as an adept right now. A mix of biotic abilities. You're totally gonna make me talk while I'm trying to. Totally not cool, man. I also have a Sentinel build set up on a different favorite.
Cover! Oh. Cover! Oh.
Seriously? Seriously?
I will never do that again.
Our lead designer.
Wow.
I'm never going to lift this one down.
Yeah. Why'd you make this?
All right, part two. Someone else talk about the profiles.
Yeah.
So can we have the art director play, please?
Yeah. No, you don't want that. I'll be like looking at the ceiling the whole time.
We have stores. We have stores.
Just going back to Fabrice's note, actually, about the size of some of the spacing on the Ket ship. It was interesting. That was one of our challenges early on when we decided to introduce jump as one of our main. Please, Ian. Did you do that just to cut me off?
No. We, I think somebody pranked him and put it in hardcore.
No.
Did you put it in Infinity?
I can't even type with someone looking over my shoulder. I can't imagine what it is.
As you can see, this is a cover-based shooter.
We have stores. We have stores.
Good job, Cora. She's got it back.
Yeah, Cora will take care of it.
Just all watch and give him good thoughts.
Yeah.
Shut them down.
Vibes.
One of the interesting things about him dying 3 times though, is that you'll see that you can approach each combat very differently because we have procedural cover, and because you have all the locomotion changes with the jump and the boost jets.
Nice.
Using the environment to your advantage is one of the keys to actually succeeding.
And what you just saw the bees do is actually a very good example of how we use the verticality in the space, which is also brand new with the boost, because obviously if you can jump, we want to make sure that all the enemies and squad, they can jump too, and they will track you in all those spaces. So the space is not only more open and bigger, but you add an entire layer of verticality to them.
Yeah, it was a big challenge early on when we decided to go that way, because traditionally level design and level art get away with a lot of concessions, not having to build. If you don't have jump, you don't have to build, the tops of buildings, the tops of structures, and you could lose some detail in the upper areas of the levels. When you introduce jump, it's far more important to make sure every last piece of detail is of the same quality, on the upper areas. Make sure everything's capped off, because the player could theoretically get anywhere in this level. And then again, earlier, one of the things we found the level artists and designers doing was actually building huge open arenas with nothing inside to actually manipulate or jump around. So that was one of the learning lessons, that despite having jump, you can create these giant open warehouses, but it's important to still fill them up with things that don't, so it doesn't look just like a big empty warehouse, essentially.
And you'll notice also right away how we're not anymore stop and go cover-based shooter. So the way you use the cover is very different tactically, and you don't plan to move forward from cover to cover. It's actually a way more organic use of the space.
You also notice quite a difference between the combat camera and the exploration camera, and we did that specifically because a lot of times you're exploring in open spaces, and we want to sort of give you a wider field of view so you could actually take it in, but also judge how you're going to explore in an area.
For the last time, report. We just fixed those base seals. If you idiots blew them, I'll have your skins.
Everything's under control. Just a simple weapon.
I've heard that somewhere before.
Stokes. This ship is property of Talon. Now you're property too, just like the rest. I don't let
Well, that wasn't going anywhere useful. Shoot pirates, rescue contact?
She's here. Somewhere. Think they've salvaged this thing?
They're not Ket. Sam, do you have us?
Not precisely, Pathfinder. Debris and radiation are still disrupting scans.
So where to?
Find Rand and fast. This way. Got that way. Stop there. Let's go. Right to the door they came in.
We're sure the captains are there?
Has to be somewhere. I think I've heard of this Kala and his wing. It's
supposed to be small time.
The ship says different.
Lucky find?
More hostiles!
Oh, that's my favorite. I love that.
So you saw Ian just did a couple biotic combos there. So obviously that's still in the game.
That's fun. I bet you jump, do a pound for melee damage. Feels so good.
One of the things you'll hear a lot too is we've really doubled down on the squad banter, both in combat and just in the missions as well. I was telling someone earlier, you know, we have, compared to Mass Effect 3, for those of you familiar, we had about 670 unique characters, I think, in Mass Effect 3. We've got over 1,200 in Mass Effect Andromeda. And if you look at just the line count, it's like putting Mass Effect 2 and 3 together. So we didn't just go and make, you know, bigger worlds to explore, we filled those worlds. And the squad banter is actually some of my favorite moments in the game. And it's always fun to take different people with you to hear what they have to say.
And combinations, because they always...
Thanks, Courtney.
They have clear relationships with each other. Like, for example, Cora and Drac give each other shit all the time and that sort of thing.
Door sealed. Override from the console? Come on! We have to find Varant!
We don't even know if this is the way.
Well, something has to go right. You take a risk for the right reason. It's supposed to work. Ugh.
Angsty.
You dent your locker, the principal.
It isn't a joke. I jumped us here blind. We don't know where anyone is or how anything works. And now we're fighting some asshole who wants everyone chained. It's like hitting Andromeda all over again.
Seal the bed.
Don't make this about the whole mission. We're here to help, but why am I the one defending your plan?
I don't know.
I will not be ignored anymore.
See? Total asshole.
That's it. Space them.
Callum, we come.
I will not be ignored.
Such an asshole.
Ah! Shit! I really hate this plan, Liam.
Right now? Me too.
Guarded!
Get on the junctions. Go.
These space sequences. Actually, I'll wait till more.
Oogie! You have timing!
We would have come in sooner, but we didn't know how we could help. Settlers aren't soldiers, but a wreck of a ship with bad shielding? We've got engineers, son. Oh, power surge. This beast does not like being prodded.
It's the artificial plan. Shit, everything's shifting!
Liam, Pathfinder, are you okay?
So...
We're here, but things have gone a little sideways.
Get to engineering.
So those space sequences were a lot of fun to work on. Ken Thane, our cinematic director, isn't here right now, but I worked with him specifically on those exterior sequences with him and his team. And the fun thing about those was they were done like in a pre-rendered type way, a more traditional kind of cutscene type way, which allows you to have a little bit more control over the lighting, over color palettes and subtle nuances and that kind of thing. Frostbite's a very powerful engine, but it comes with a lot of technical hurdles and some limitations. But it was nice to be able to do those space scenes in a more traditional compositing way, because you get a little bit more play. You get a few more tools in your tool belt to render those guys.
So this level is a perfect example of something we couldn't have done in the trilogy without jump, without the ability to move in the vertical. It's, you know, there's crates and boxes everywhere for you to kind of scale over. There's different puzzles that kind of exist in this level based on your ability to jump.
Which way?
Climb up there. Turn on us a new exit.
We're getting real lucky, Liam.
It's also a good showcase of the, again, the scale of the level we're talking and the space and how far we can see and the level of details that we can put in those levels.
That little blue thing that's following Ian, that's because he has an adept profile on. If you have an infiltrator profile, that'll be kind of like the cloaking type effect. So we have little visual cues of what makes each profile special.
Good example of favorites.
Do you have favorites, Ian?
Yeah, I've actually switched over here to a Sentinel favorite. With the Sentinel, I have tech armor that'll pop up whenever I take damage, and I have a couple of different abilities mapped.
That's one of the things we've talked about, is that you can actually create up to 4 different groups of favorites, and that allows you to have 3 powers and 1 profile assigned to it, and you can just switch on the fly when you're fighting. So if you want your Vanguard profile, Vanguard playstyle, or you want your Infiltrator, or you just want to be a soldier, you can actually switch right on the fly. You can also just stick to one if you want it.
You have to build it though over time, right?
Yep.
Open the pause menu quick. Just go to the skills in the pause menu, so we could show that off a little bit. So you can choose from each of those 3 trees: biotics, tech, combat, and you put points based on what power is important to you. And the number of points that you put into each of these trees will unlock different profiles. So as you can see, Ian has 4 profiles unlocked, and he can switch between those as he wants to.
It's a much more, one of the things we really wanted to embrace was a sort of sense of freedom. It was exploration, again, one of the themes of the game. We wanted you to feel like you could explore any power, any skill set, and not be restricted by a choice you'd made at the beginning of the game, but then also reward you for those choices that you make as you go, and that's where the profiles came in.
I thought this was a minor group of pirates.
A ship like this would really bring in recruits.
Idiot. Fight import. Report. Get framework and guard patch job. 40% functional at best. Partially stripped.
Parted out, then dumped. A junker.
It's a good example of our use of space again, outside the level. How did you guys approach, Kathleen, writing the, for a new character, for new protagonists especially, our writers, versus writing for Shepard?
The thing about Shepard was that because Shepard evolved over 3 games, it was, by the end you could hear Jennifer Hale or Mark Meer in your head as you were writing them. And so it was a challenge to start with someone fresh and new. I mean, it's always exciting to start with a blank page, but it is a bit of a challenge as well. But because of the, some of the lighter tones we were going with in the game, we had the freedom to make them a bit more of a, of a wise ass at times, or, not just the super soldier that Shepard is.
And that actually, translates over for those of you who haven't been following. The Paragon Renegade system, we don't use that anymore. That was very much something that was felt like it was a part of Shepard. Now we do a tone system where you have 4 different types of tones. So if you don't want to be the wise ass, you can also be the professional if you want, or you can be more of the person who's leaps before they look, or vice versa, right? Somebody who's just more of a thinker. In addition to that, we've also, for decisions and consequence, we often wrap them around sort of an agree-disagree. And the reason we want to do that was actually something we looked at doing on the trilogy early on, and then we moved away from it. But I like it because, with Paragon Renegade, you kind of know once you just decide what your playthrough is going to be, well, it's up and to the right for the rest of the game. Agree-disagree changes depending on, whether you're talking, what the question is, right, and who you're talking to, and it kind of keeps you more involved in the game, and it just feels more like you're role-playing.
On it.
You guys just saw Ian shoot through some destructible pieces. We've got elements of destructible cover as well as part of the overall combat experience. It's not everywhere, you won't see it everywhere, but a lot of the cover pieces are destructible, so you can bypass cover by just kicking it open.
Space is giving them trouble. Even ground for everyone.
One of our big challenges on the art team for developing Andromeda was coming up with the different races and palettes that we use to build out those races. And a lot of work goes into building that out, not just in terms of building a character. You have to build their architectural design. You have to build their culture. What kind of customs do they abide by? So a lot of work and thought goes into exactly what that is. Even down to their alphabet. We have fonts for each one of our alien races. And
this is an interesting mismatch because this is Ket architecture, this is a Ket ship, and our outlaw faction here, the Talons, are made up of the Angara species.
Yeah. That's what I was getting to. It was an interesting challenge with Liam Loyalty, trying to graft those two styles together. Because obviously when you're designing a lot of these palettes early in development, you don't know quite how they're going to be used across the whole span of the game. And when we came up with the idea for Liam Loyalty, having this kind of hybrid of the two palettes, it was a really fun challenge for the level artists to try and piece all that together and kit bash that together.
Yeah, so we're looking at the Outlaw faction, and it's actually one faction within the Outlaw palette, the enemy palette. I don't know, Fabrice, if you want to talk more about some of the other enemy palettes that we've got in the game. We've got quite a wide variety, plus wildlife now.
Yeah, I think and it's not only about the amount of palette, but the amount of roles also that we have as enemies. So each palette has specific components. Some of palette decline also into sub roles and sub specific things. But overall, we took two sides to build all that. Is the same idea of exploration. So we want to make sure that not only you can discover enemies that have specific gameplay purposes, but that it is something that you're going to learn over time and not necessarily obvious. But also they have very, very specific roles that takes into account the new layouts and the new way that the combat is. So you saw, for example, the quadruped, the Addy several times pushing Ian out of cover. The destructible cover, some of the enemies also not only target you, but will target destructible cover when it's there to force you to move on. And some of them also occupy really the three-dimensional space, including the verticality. Some of them will ignore cover, so there's really a wide variety in each palette. And we also try to, the enemy from each palette are also consistent with their own race and how they behave, the type of action they take, and how also tactically they attack you. Overall, also because with switch to a new engine, then you have to redo the AI, for example. So the enemy AI in general is way more powerful and has to adapt to a way more dynamic environment as you saw. So
one of the mechanics that you might have seen there too is there's a little HUD at the top and it starts blinking and blinking faster and faster. Because it's a game of exploration, sometimes we don't point you right to the next objective, we actually want you to search and find it. So we actually have sort of a hot-cold mechanic for locating things that you know are in a certain radius, but you're not sure are there.
Can you pull up the scanner there quick, Ian? So as part of those tools, you obviously have the scanner. We've talked about this a little bit before, but it allows you to kind of scan the environment for new and interesting things. And it also is directly built into our research and development mechanic. So if you see those three icons at the bottom, they represent different kinds of research data. One from the Milky Way, one from Helios, and one from the unknown remnant at this point. And so you can go through the world and scan different things to kind of gather research information on the various types, and then you can use those later to craft things.
And when we talk about exploration, that's a good reminder that it's not only about the physical exploration or the exploration of territories. We're talking about cultural exploration and discovery on an element of material and cultures. And Joel talked about linguistic, the idea of the alphabet. And the scanner is one of the tools that make the bridge between the gameplay and that narrative context that you want to discover a number of things.
Still here. We'll find you a route to those captives.
It's the cargo bay.
Again? What do you mean you can't see them? Well, get ready everywhere!
Real eager to meet that person.
Pathfinder, that door up there, it was blocked before.
How about it, Bradley?
Negative. You'll have to scan for something manual.
Another good example of the wide open spaces that we're able to create. I think Frostbite does this really well. These beautiful environments.
Maybe we can reach the door.
But there's also a little bit more dynamism in some of these where we'll actually, as you can see, the level shifting, and once Ian gets up there and solves this puzzle, the level itself will change again.
Still on their cameras. Callet has filled the hall past that door.
And the captives?
Past them.
Whatever it takes.
Door and crane. Here they come.
So Joel, when you guys were, planning to do something that does PBR, physically based rendering, obviously it lights beautifully. What were some of the challenges and things that you guys were looking at?
So yeah, PBR is a very interesting technology. A lot of games are physically based rendering. And we use a whole bunch of different acronyms for all of our cool features and tech. But I think it's a piece of technology that a lot of new games are going to be using and taking advantage of. But it does force the artist to think about their assets in a very different way. Traditionally, an artist would, they would build a model, and then when it goes to be textured, they paint the texture, the diffuse, essentially the color and the bumping on it and all that. They paint that all manually. But PBR forces them to think of things in a more physical, real-world kind of sense. Like, what does the value of metal look like in real life? And they have to understand how to apply that to materials in the game, metal materials in the game. And it was really, really difficult to try and train ourselves to accept the fact that when you see metal in the game, it might, you naturally think it should look black. If it was a surface that's meant to look black, using PBR, it might look gray in the game, but we have to understand that that's accurate. That's how it's meant to look under certain lighting conditions. And then once we actually introduce lighting and bake the lighting into the levels, the materials show exactly how they're meant to look in real life. It's just it was a very complicated mind shift for the artists to not want to just force that color to always look like that color that they're used to seeing. They have to kind of think a few steps down the line to how would that color look once it's finally properly lit in the game. It was a challenge, but in the end, it does provide a more realistic look.
One of the other things, every once in a while, if you see the enemies and they kind of get little shields over them, that's actually Ian's sending his squad mate to attack them. You can send them individually, left, right on the D-pad, or if you hit up, you can send them both at the same time, and they're pretty effective, as you can see.
One of the things too that you can see as Ryder is calling out in the banter, he's not as sure as Shepard was. So one of the things that we started with is Ryder is skilled but untested, yep, and grows over the course of the game. So.
Yeah, it's very much a story, and not just for Ryder, but for all the people around them. It's Shepard was very much already a hero when we met them. They kind of became a legend. This is a story of a bunch of people kind of coming together and becoming heroes, and it actually carries through. Even the our version of sort of the Citadel Council, the Nexus and Andromeda Initiative people. They're not the people who were necessarily sent to do it because things went a little poorly when they arrived, and so they're just trying to figure out how to be leaders as well. So it's kind of a theme that carries all the way through.
Getting the hang of this, right?
Cycling power for doors ahead, but it seals the one behind you.
We're not turning back anyway.
You know we're getting real lucky.
Look, some things you just have to count on. Skill, purpose, allies. We have them all in spades.
And if it goes wrong?
It already did. Still better than day one on Helios.
They're bunkered in the next room, Pathfinder. Sniper, maybe two, and I think cages?
Thanks for the lookout.
Have to take out that sniper!
More pets, let's move!
Focus on the pirates. We'll get the door.
At least one more somewhere.
Doors open, Pathfinder.
That was another interesting challenge for the art team, specifically VFX. Because our combat features so many different powers and biotics, we found early on that the VFX looked like a laser light show with the amount of bullets and tracers and biotics and orbs and space magic flying past you. It really did look like a fireworks show, and so we had to find a nice, comfortable balance to not overwhelm the player or look too ADD, while still feeling kind of fresh and flashy and kind of fun and colorful. So it took a lot of iteration to try and find that nice subtle balance. You know, how often do you use this power versus this power? Okay, so this one could be flashier and colorful. This one's used all the time, so let's tone it down and keep it a little bit more subtle. Subtle is one of my key words I use a lot on the floor.
Subtle.
Subtle.
I think we're about to get into some spoilery areas. I think we're going to call it right here, right? Yeah.
Giant robots.
Giant robots.
Seal the boat.
Robots.
Now's our chance.
All right. So everyone give Ian a round of applause.
Yes. I think there's going to be a microphone set up. I can't see it. It's out there somewhere, and I seem to recall it's only on one side. We'd love to take questions.
You died, Ian, but I think you kept your squad mates alive the whole time.
Well, they were carrying me. It was golden.
Yeah.
I am never playing in front of an audience again. Yeah.
Right. Don't be shy.
There's the mic. Right
there you go. Boom. Step right up. Go. Yeah.
So I just have a simple question. Will Ryder be a better dancer than Shepard?
I don't know if...
Can he be worse?
I don't know if better, but I've seen more variety, I think. I'll tease you with that.
All right, thank you.
Yep.
So my favorite moment in the entire Mass Effect trilogy was curing the genophage. I'm just curious, will the reset button have been hit on that in Andromeda? Will the Krogan still have the genophage, or is that too much of a spoiler? Can you not discuss it?
That's a bit of a spoiler, but I mean, I think one of the things we can say is that it's still a factor in Andromeda, and yeah, without spoiling it, I can't get into more, but there is a resolution for the Krogan.
It's a different story.
It's a different story. Yep.
Yeah. We're not
I mean,
the same story.
I think that was the thing, is we wanted to be able to bring up a lot of these things that people love, but actually present them in a new and fresh way.
All right, thank you.
You bet.
Yeah, I have 2 questions actually. Will you be able to import your kind of like story basis from your original gameplays from in the earlier Mass Effects, and after kind of the red, green, blue debacle of the ending of Mass Effect 3, are there going to be like much more like kind of M3 expansion choices where each choice you make have multiple decisions on the new Andromeda?
Right. So one of the things I think we wanted to do very clearly was to sort of start fresh with this. So we aren't looking to carry a whole lot of things forward. There are a lot of nods to the trilogy, a lot of them in the game, a lot of Easter eggs. Even one of the first options you'll see in the customization option is asking if your Shepard was male or female. So we're looking at that, but we're not bringing things forward specifically because we want people to feel like, no, this is fresh. It's fresh for everyone, whether you've played or not before.
So it'll give you your like choices like of what you made, but you can't like, there's no import ability.
That's right.
No.
Okay. Thank you.
Thanks for getting that one out of the way, nice and early.
Yep.
Hi. I saw in that gameplay that in a lot of the dialogue areas there was only around like 2 choices. Will that be more common, or will we still have investigate options and more options to talk more deeply with people?
Yeah, you'll have in a mission like this, we're very focused on getting the action through, but in your quieter moments on the Tempest with your squad mates, you'll be able to have investigate some of the people that you meet on the worlds that we explore. You'll be able to ask them about their lives. But in terms of our tone wheel that Mac was talking about, there's actually 4 tones, and occasionally you will get a 4-tone choice as well. But sometimes just for the sake of moving things forward, like you're not always going to be emotional about a choice, but so we choose which of the 4 tones we use.
Awesome, thank you very much.
Hi. My question, it's kind of a 2-parter. I believe it was reported that in the customization with Shepard that affects what your father looks like. My question is, does that also apply to your sibling, and what role does your sibling have in the story?
Yeah, actually, when you initially set up your character, if you customize your character, then the twin will start off being kind of ballpark looking like you, and you can change them if you want to. You can make them look wildly differently. And then when you're done, all said and done, the dad will automatically inherit off of you.
Okay, thank you.
Also, we forgive you for calling him Shepard. It's totally cool.
That's good.
Thank you.
We do it all the time, too.
Hello. So this is a question in regard in regard to the multiplayer. So in 3, I really like how the multiplayer tied into the main campaign with all the at the war table. However, I wasn't as much of a fan as that I was kind of required in order to get a good ending. Are we going to see something similar in this game?
No, we've actually changed that quite a bit. There's no narrative link, like your ending isn't impacted by multiplayer and single player. We have something new called strike teams, where you can optionally send people out on missions to get rewards for you in single player, or you can do those same missions yourself in multiplayer in order to get multiplayer rewards and single player rewards. But it's all optional. It's all a reward mechanic, not a story changer.
Thank you.
Hi. I was wondering about the writing. If you work with like creating a main script for the game and then just kind of going with it, or you have like a more iterative process where as you build the game, you start adding more lines to it that kind of fit the scenario.
Go ahead.
Both. What we'll do is we have a smaller team get together and build the framework of the story and what our key themes are, what sort of the direction that we're going, and then we'll bring on more writers, and then that's when we start to build things like the loyalty missions. We build out the character arcs, the relationship and romance arcs, but it is also very iterative. We have a process where we start on paper, we get it into the game, we iterate on that, we get it into the game, we iterate on that, we get it, we get the art in, we iterate on that. And so all along the way, people are working together as a team. Game making is a very collaborative art form, like one of the most that I've ever worked on, and it's actually really rewarding in that sense.
Yeah, and also we can say that usually people underestimate how the gameplay also influences the narrative and vice versa. So sometimes the designers will introduce mechanics that will inspire writers or vice versa because of something in the background of a character or race. A designer will trigger a mechanic idea that will go through the game. So it's not even only about the context and the characters.
Yeah, one of the abilities for the Angara actually came from gameplay, started in gameplay, and then they said, could you make this work? And we were like, yeah, I think we can make that work.
Yeah, it's pretty amazing how inspiring each department feeds off of one another. Like, from the writing, the art team feeds dramatically off of the writing, and same with design. If there's a really cool design once in a while, they'll feed off of that as well. Still looking forward to that, though.
Someday.
Thank you.
Yep.
Hello, I'm EA. I know the game is very close to release, but can you guys still cut out the tutorial mission and make it a DLC? On a more serious note, I'm just interested in what's the situation with the DLCs going on, if you know anything about it.
Sorry, you're just...
One more time.
What is the general situation with DLCs?
Like in the world? Situation?
Like, no, in your game.
Sell them.
For the game?
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, we've got a pretty strong live servers plan, and we'll be talking more about that in the future with multiplayer. I think the goal is to we love having a great relationship with our fans and hearing what they have to say and responding to that. And I think you can expect to see us waiting until it's in everyone's hands, see what they say, and then seeing maybe where we want to go from there.
Thank you very much.
Nice to meet you, EA.
Come back next year.
Yeah. You're nothing like your photograph.
Hi. So my question is, when you were building the character, and because you were starting fresh and with the abilities and everything, are we going to be seeing like enemies that they encounter? Would it be like bosses or enemies? Would the character develop some of their abilities when they defeat them, or when they destroy them? Would we see something like that, or?
Not systemically. You'll certainly see characters with, you'll see bosses, you'll fight bosses with various abilities. And you'll have some recurring bosses that you're going to run into multiple times throughout the game. But they're not like systemically changing their skills based on your skills. Or...
Oh, no, I mean like, does the player get some of their skills or like some of their abilities?
Oh, yeah, you will see like some things are uniquely on an enemy or uniquely on a squad mate or uniquely on you. But you will also see some other things that do overlap between multiple characters.
Cool. Thank you.
Yep.
Hi, this question is for Ian. As a lead designer, you don't seem very good at the game.
It's more of a statement, really, than a question.
It's not really a question,
but not all lead designers have producers heckling them, so it's not fair.
No, so my question is, does the combat in the game like maintain a reasonable level of difficulty for players who are actually good at it?
I think you and him got to play multiplayer, and you gotta throw him under the bus. Anyway, answer.
Yes, I think the game presents a reasonable level of difficulty.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Hi. I was wondering, are there any smaller details that are in the game that you guys really are proud of or like that you think the average gamer might not notice or that might not stand out?
I bet you there's something for everyone. What I would say is that the interesting thing with Andromeda is I mentioned how big it was before and how much content we've got in it. I literally saw a cutscene, I don't know, it was about 2 months ago, and I had never seen it before. I didn't know it was in the game. It was wonderful, and there are a lot of those moments, you know, both in gameplay, story, everything. And I don't know, I'd open up to you guys, but you know, there are some. And the thing is, when you push freedom and player freedom, that means you're not being as prescriptive about how, you know, where people should go and how they should play, which means there's a lot of content that people can just kind of miss. And I think some of my favorite storylines and favorite moments, actually, we really have to kind of pursue and know how to find them, and they're very rewarding when you get there.
I think it's fun to explore each other's content. Like when I go onto the Tempest and I find like, oh my God, look, there's these ships here, these models here that I didn't know, and find stuff that Jess has kind of tucked in there.
There's a lot of neat little things hidden around.
Yeah.
I think for me, I lived on the Tempest for 3 years, and you know, with the hubs, it's the center of where you talk to your squad. You get to know them, build your relationships with them, and for someone who this is all I did, I was still surprised listening to the conversations between your squad mates, what the things they say to each other and evolve over time. It's because it's not just your relationship as Ryder with them, it's their relationships with each other as well. And when you are on a tiny spaceship in danger, there are conversations that will happen.
Yeah.
Sexy conversation.
Yeah. Well, yeah.
Thank you.
You bet.
Hello. The question I had is, how many new races are we going to see in this game, and which races from previous games, if any, are not going to be in the game?
Yeah, I'm not getting into the specifics of that right now, but I think you've seen probably most of them in various trailers and things like that. At this point, we haven't held much back at this point, so if you haven't seen it yet, it's probably not going to be there day one, but yeah, we're not getting more into the specifics on that.
Okay, thank you.
So my question is, when you're making characters, do you decide which ones are going to be romanced? And are we going to get somebody to replace everybody's favorite calibrating alien heartthrob Garrus?
You can't replace Garrus.
No.
No.
I mean, we can try.
Yeah.
The relationships between Ryder and the squad mates evolve as we go through the iterative process. So it's not like we decide based on some formula that we have in a box. And especially in creating a character like Garrus, who evolved over 3 games. I mean, that was the challenge actually sort of the, I don't know, burden is too harsh a word, but I think you know what I'm getting at when I say that some of these beloved characters like Garrus and Tally have evolved over 3 games. And so for us to create that kind of depth and relationship between Ryder and them, because they've all just met as well, most of them, and between ourselves and them, the players and those characters, is it's hard to do. So you know, we've tried to create deep, soulful characters. You know, an asshole here and there, but you know, nobody's going to be Garrus, really.
I think one of the things we try to stay true to when the characters, especially the major characters, are being developed, is to not let them, certainly for something like a romance, not let that be slave to gameplay. It's like, well, what is that character? What would that character be, right? And want the character to be true to themselves before we go and try to balance it out evenly throughout. It's like make sure everyone's got this romance or that romance. I mean, we do that check at some point, and we, I'd rather we add new characters to solve that. But we want, for me, it's more important the characters are just believable.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Hi, Ian. Don't listen to that guy. You did great. All right.
Thank you.
I have a very simple question. I'm just wondering if there's going to be like a stat tracking system for like weapons and things like that for the campaign as opposed to the multiplayer. The original trilogies, they didn't have that. And I'm just wondering if that is a plan for this game.
Sorry, I think I missed bits of that. The
stats tracking system.
Stats tracking.
Oh, stats tracking. Yes, we do. We did actually add stats tracking for single player, not just multiplayer. So you can check, how many places you've explored and certain things acquired and headshots you've accomplished and all that.
All right, great. Thanks for an awesome original trilogy, guys. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Without too many spoilers, what was some of your all's favorite things to work on within the game?
Oh, that's a good question.
It's been 5 years. It evolves over the years. Yeah. But I think the favorite one is probably too broad, but definitely for me, this two component at the beginning, a while ago now, years ago, I think when we firmly decided to bring back the Mako, who became the Nomad. I think we had a lot of fun in those early days, and it was actually when we were still, switching engine and all that. It's one of the first major gameplay feature that came together, and we actually had a huge lot of fun very early on to just drive it around, and so that was pleasant. After, I would say, over the years, clearly all the challenge around the new combat system for me, because I was heavily involved in that, was both frustrating and satisfying, but that's good memories overall.
Mm-hmm. I think similarly when Jump came online, that was something that was really compelling for us, both because it was new and because we found all sorts of applications for it that we didn't really expect initially.
I liked getting to know Joel over the last couple of years. Joel's one of my favorite characters of all the Mass Effect games, and so seeing him being brought to life actually by Kathleen throughout the last number of years was really satisfying to see him become more and more a part of the beloved squad that I was used to.
Yeah, I'll double down on that as well, even from a visual standpoint. He was one of our earlier party members we started to design visually, and he went through that race, that Angara race in general, went through some interesting iterations that might not be in the art book at some point.
No, cut all that stuff.
Very interesting iterations.
It's all censored, yeah. But
there were emails.
But Joel turned out fantastic. And Kathleen's writing and the voice, it all came together in such a nice little package. Yeah, Joel was fantastic.
But I think that even taking that further, the most fun has been actually exploring Andromeda and bringing it to this new place and finding these, being able to see these planets and zooming in on the debris and just creating, not just the Angara, but the other species that we have, building those, it put us in I wasn't on ME1, but it put me particularly in the position of being the writers on ME1 and being able to start from that place was really rewarding.
Yeah, I think I'd double down on the planets, but actually just more the whole world design. As you saw with Liam today, that is more like our very character-focused, cinematic, story-focused, sort of linear mission, one and done. And there's a lot of high fidelity in there. Everything from the scenery to the boss battles, everything in it is extremely handcrafted. Versus then we have our open worlds where we still want it to be handcrafted and lush, but obviously you have different gameplay expectations, different player expectations, and you want to find a way to have that sense of freedom as a player to feel like you can really explore anywhere. But you're still, these guys are still working with the same tool set, and so trying to find a way to build a game in a way that you can have those beautiful crafted linear moments and the wide open spaces, and then bring it all together so it all feels like one world. that you're exploring or one galaxy that you're exploring. I think it was obviously a challenge, but also I think one of the most fruitful things out of it all, because I think the team did an amazing job with that.
And I think for me, previously, I was a big fan of the trilogy. This is my first game at Bioware, Mass Effect. The characters always meant so much. So being part of the Tempest, watching the relationships with these characters, from writing to text to speech, when they might have a cowboy accent, and you're like, I don't know how this is going to work. And then you get the VO, and then the scenes come in. Seeing this iteration over the course of the 3-4 years of doing this, it's amazing to the fact where, as someone who has seen every romance scene more than any one person ever should have, I still don't know who I'm going to romance. There's a lot of magic happening here. Sexy space magic.
It's the best kind.
It's a good question. It's a good question. Thank you.
So that's all the time I think we have for questions. But before we get out of here, Mike, I think you have something to say.
Yeah, sorry. So the guy who got cut off and didn't get to ask his question, unfortunately, there's a prize for getting cut off. So if you come up. Thanks, man. Yeah, no problem. Thanks, man.
I want to get cut off.
Yeah.
Yeah, sorry for the rest of you guys who got cut off. And so I think we're going to close on the trailer that was released this morning. Hopefully you haven't seen it, but